Hi everyone, welcome to another big episode of the Altcoin Bible. I really enjoy doing these episodes every single Wednesday where we check out some major cryptocurrencies that you may or may not be aware of, and we just go through each of the charts and just look at some simple indicators and metrics and maybe provide some insight as well that maybe you weren't thinking of, or maybe reconfirming something in your own mind. So I want to crack straight in because I want to talk about what's happening, because boy, oh boy, what a big difference a week can make in this market. And why we love crypto so much is, of course, the volatility, because things can change so quick, so fast. And I'll just reinforce there that volatility cuts both ways. So it can go down a heck of a lot, as we've seen since the highs, about 90% across the board for a lot of these altcoins, Bitcoin down around about 60%. But you got to remember that on the upside, the asymmetric move that it can do is incredible. So over multiple bull markets, we've seen a lot of these altcoins 10x, 100x, 500x from the lows, if you get the right projects, of course. But a lot of these major and mid caps can do those sort of multiples on the way up in a bull market. So you've got to take the good with the bad, but the good, more often than not, is so much better than the bad. So having a long-term focus is absolutely essential here. I just wanted to have a look at how, excuse me, liquidity flows through the crypto market. Now, more often than not, and I'd say about 90-something% of the time, liquidity moves through the highest or the most liquid assets in the market first, and then filters down to the mid caps and the lower caps. When I say caps, I mean higher capitalized. So if you're looking on market caps, that's what we're talking about there. So the highest market cap in crypto right now is Bitcoin, followed by Ethereum. So that's where a lot of the large money goes. And there's a lot of buyers and sellers on each side of the trade. So very easy to fill your orders and sell your crypto if you really want to. So we see the money flow through Bitcoin first, then it heads into Ethereum. And that's when Ethereum starts to move, that's when altcoins tend to move. Now, Bitcoin, you might look at the chart and go, well, it hasn't really done too much. Ethereum is making more of the lion's share move. But what Bitcoin has actually done is find stability above the 20,000 psychological support, and sellers appear to be reasonably exhausted for the short term, at least. Now, Ethereum is moving a little bit harder. That could be due to the narrative that it's got the merge coming up. You can look up what the merge is, but it's leading towards the network upgrade that it's looking to do towards the back end of the year. Regardless, Ethereum is moving pretty hard here, and we're seeing a lot of altcoins that are either built on Ethereum or outside of Ethereum that maybe have interconnectivity, or just generally giving the whole ecosystem a bit of a confidence boost and showing a bit of a relief rally. You can see there that money's flowing into the large caps, which is absolutely happening now. So Ethereum first, then large caps, then mid caps, then low caps. And low caps are generally those super high risk opportunities that can really fly, but you have to have a proper risk management strategy in place to really take advantage of those. And then at the very end, you have alt season. So we have phases in the market cycle where we see Bitcoin run, find stability, and then altcoins, Ethereum will begin to run, and then that cycle tends to repeat, and the oxygen gets sucked from altcoins back into Bitcoin. It runs a bit further, then finds a new range, finds that stability, and then a lot of those profits and liquidity move down to altcoins. They go higher, and it is a almost like a vicious cycle, but it's vicious to the upside, which is fantastic for long-term investors. And that's the cycle I just want to make everyone aware of. In bear markets, the liquidity very much sucks out the other way like a vacuum. So you just have to keep that in mind. And that is generally how I'm seeing liquidity move at the moment. So if you look at Ethereum right now, really nice move off this low. And we've been talking about for a little while how good Ethereum looks compared to Bitcoin. It's been really leading Bitcoin. And that's what we really want to see, that if Ethereum's moving like this, we also want to see Bitcoin showing strength. Because if Bitcoin isn't showing strength and Ethereum is, then you have to start to question how powerful or what longevity does this move have. So what I really like about this is now Bitcoin has ripped through its 200 weekly moving average. That was a very key resistance point for the long-term cycle. It was been the floor for the last bear markets gone previous. So that is just huge confirmation, but it hasn't closed above yet. I think that is really important too. So it's made a positive move through, but we want to see in the next 5 days it come back down, just test it as support, and then the market will have a lot of confidence, and you will see a lot more aggressive buying from that point. It also leads risk markets. So if you see Bitcoin doing its thing, generally you'll see equities follow. Now, they're very tightly correlated, but we saw in March 2020 that Bitcoin led all risk assets, including equities, out of that phase. All right, I'll rip through these just very quickly. Ethereum looks great. It's above its 200 daily moving average. It's been above its 200 weekly for a little while here. RSI, so buying power, looks really, really strong. So this purple line here, and it's a bit confusing with all these other purples, but this purple line here, you can see Ethereum's been under it, and then it's smashed right back through it, and it's gone on top of it. Now, it hasn't come back down to really test it, but I consider these candles closing above it a pretty good indicator that Ethereum wants to run maybe up to this next resistance about 1700. That's when we'll start to see sellers re-engage. It's a very key area for the volume. I do like what I'm seeing on the RSI. It's turning, probably draw a trend line down there. It's about to break through. So for the longer term, this looks really promising, but don't be surprised if we see a bit of a correction up here. Sellers re-engage. Buyers will have to show their gumption, their strength to really push this higher up to these moving averages. So that's how it will look. It will look like stairs going up, and generally it's an elevator down. So that's all we're going to look at. Matisse, just want to bring this up because Matisse is, I'd say, probably one of the premier layer twos. So that's going to be built on Ethereum. I'd be watching these layer twos super sharply. Now, MATIC is in the same bracket. I'll get to the MATIC chart in a sec. You've got Optimism and Arbitrum, so keep an eye on those as well. But Matisse, it's a really good looking chart. We do track it a lot. So just wanted to point out here that it's still one to watch, but it's looking bullish for a while, and it did what we thought it would do last week. So we said one to watch for a doubling of the 50 moving average, which it absolutely did. The 50 on this chart is the red line, and I believe when we last looked, it was under here, got above this 21. So definitely doubled into that. Had a bit of a correction phase, got on top of these two key moving averages, the 50 and the 21, and now it's exploded higher. What we really want to look at here on Matisse in terms of seeing a trend is these higher low structures. So you've got the low here, you've got a higher low. So that's 1, 2, 3. I look for 2, 3 is fantastic. And then you see the pulse up from that. You also want to see in that structure as well, including those higher lows, you want to see higher highs. So what we had here was, you could count that one, but let's just count this for fun. One there, and then this next high over here was higher than the last one. Plus, it got on top of this horizontal over here, which sort of marked this previous resistance flip support. So what you want to see Matisse do, now that it's above a lot of this volume, which is great to see, is really hold this line here, could maybe go below, but you want to see a bit of a shaping structure. Some sellers will re-engage here. You want to see Matisse come up here, probably about 49 is about right for the next phase, probably in line with Ethereum reaching 1700. So a lot of these altcoins are shaping up like that. RSI looks really, really nice. You can see just buyers just continuously finding that strength. Maybe a small point of concern that Matisse might be, finding a local top fairly soon, just because of the strength is so strong. And the last time we saw strength in this area of this magnitude, it was at near an all-time high. So just keep that in mind. But again, strength is good to see. Above volume, this to me shaping like a short-term bottom. So happy days. FTM, so Phantom, really interesting. I'd probably put this again in my one to watch. I think, look, a few of these could be one to watch, cherry ripe. I'm pretty happy with a few of them. I'll probably put MATIC in my cherry ripe, but we're in this phase where altcoins are trying to find that bottom, and a lot of them are exploding out of these zones, which has been pummeled for so long. So I think they're all cherry ripe, all one to watch, because they all could go higher, but some will run harder than others until we do find this bit of a local resistance. We'll see that on Bitcoin and Ethereum first. But here, just want to show you Phantom. So you can very clearly see this wedge here structure where price just bounced into this ceiling and got progressively lower each time. That's a very bearish pattern, but it has actually broken up from that. So it's broken the trend. That's fairly bullish. So you see here almost like a triple bottom on this huge volume support here on the daily. But again, it snapped, broke right through, pierced the 50 moving average as well. Very nice, shows a lot of strength there. The RSI growing. This pulse up just blitzed everything, even back to April 2nd when it tried to break out of the 50 previously. So this tells me this has strength. This is moving through because it's higher than the last time it tried and failed. Now that it's broken this short-term trend, there's really nothing stopping it coming up here to about 0.43. So that's what you do want to see. And again, volume not really stopping here because it's in front of it. So this will be the next big test for Phantom. So definitely one to watch here. This is the larger trend. So it's broken the short-term trend, and now it's got this big gap up to here. And it really wants to have a look and challenge this area here until it starts to look at If it does break that, then it's looking at that 200 daily because it's got this big gulp in volume. You see this big gap between these huge steps here and then these lack of steps in between before this little jutting structure here. That will run straight up and it's confluent with that. So keep that in mind. Also, if we just pop on out to the weekly, still have the broader picture in mind because I just want to show you where the big support was, and it was running into it right here, found support, which is great. Now it's going to do its thing. Structures that will be a bit concerning in the midterm will be head and shoulders forming. So left shoulder, big head, and then this may sucker a lot of people in a bit of a bear market rally and form this right shoulder that comes around and then dumps straight back down here before we have a bit of a judgment, or we break through and just rip through this head and shoulders and just trend higher. So just keep that in mind on the broader picture. But right now, a lot of these altcoins looking great. MATIC, let me go to the chart. It's just reloaded on me. It loads. MATIC. You're probably shouting at the screen seeing it because I can't. MATIC, here we go. So it's had an incredible run. In fact, it's probably one of the best altcoins right now in terms of what it's achieved in this short amount of time off the bottom. So let's just see. So 211% move off the bottom. Now, of course, you're not going to catch this down here, but if you had identified MATIC as a project to watch, as a project you want to accumulate for the longer term, you likely would have been dollar cost averaging along these areas in line with where Bitcoin sat, where Ethereum sat, and where you saw this sitting. So 211% gain. That is what you can have to see and achieve in a bear market phase, which we're still in. We haven't confirmed we're not out of it. But last time we looked at MATIC, we saw this shorter term trend needed to break through. It was forming this inverse head and shoulders, and it absolutely did. So left shoulder there, inverse head, and another shoulder there, blitzed up through, rallied through a strong volume area, which is absolutely key, and it broke through this huge longer term trend. So if you just remember back from Phantom, I was just talking about how it broke this shorter term trend and it was running, had the space to run up to that broader trend. Well, MATIC's already ripped through it. So for me, MATIC lightly comes back down to test this trend line, test some of this volume, just feel it out, and it's trying to do it now in a bit of a flag, like bull flag, I'd say. And then, you can't really read a flag, but I reckon that's what it's going to form here. But the next really big point for MATIC is around about that $1.20 mark, and I think it's going to get there fairly soon up to this next volume profile. So MATIC is probably my cherry ripe. In fact, it is. It just looks super, and it's broken out on big volume and a bit of narrative around it too, with some news with Disney and whatnot. Now, my danger zone for the week, and I got to say, it was hard to find some danger zone, and I guess it's easy to pick on some of these retail driven coins sometimes, but I think it's really good to highlight because right now retail is not in crypto. It is to a small degree, but we're not in a raging bull market where we have every person and their dog talking about crypto. You go to the gym, you go to a taxi, everyone's going, have you bought this, have you bought that, I'm rich, I'm et cetera, et cetera. So I want to highlight it because the technicals don't look fantastic compared to a lot of other cryptos that have fundamental uses and a lot of users. Right now, DOGECOIN, you can see this huge, this is on the weekly, so this is very zoomed out, this huge, excuse me, downward trending structure, just creating these lower highs each time, cannot bounce over this area, and it's just continuously moving down. It's super, super bearish. We're now underneath the 200 weekly moving average. This is not a place you want to be. It's where Bitcoin's been, it's where Ethereum's been, it's where a lot of other cryptos have been. Now, granted, a lot of them are beginning to reclaim that, but will DOGECOIN, do the buyers exist right now to rally this above? I'm not so sure. And until proven otherwise, I'm going to say that this is bearish and it's going to come back down to these lower levels, maybe another haircut of maybe 10, 20% down to 0.049, something like that around these volume areas. Nothing on the RSI to suggest that it's going to break. I mean, it is curling up a little bit, but yet no break on the trend. Nothing about this screams bullish. So you just got to remember that. Sometimes if you want to accumulate some of these cryptos and think it has a longer term investment thesis, you really, in these bear market phases, you want to look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first, and then you look at some of these cryptos and you really want to either go in super, super slow or wait for confirmation. And getting above these uber long-term moving averages is absolutely key. So coming up to retest and failing is not a great sign, but again, we still have another 5 days of this week. Could break through, sure. And the daily moving average, it has lost as well. So yeah, a few things, confluent indicators lining up. All right, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this Altcoin Bible. As always, I love looking cryptos. I love looking at the charts. So hopefully you found it informative. I'll catch everyone on Friday for our Friday roundup. Have a great day. Bye.